It looks as if Justin Herbert is going to play, but the Chargers are going to be very shorthanded going up against Kansas City this weekend, and it feels like they're going to need a big game from McConkey if they're going to pull off the upset.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 9 seasons together, but this is our 7th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you to the everydayers out there for making us your first listen. And to make sure that you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, what do we got today?
Well, Daniel, with an offensive line that's less than 100%, it's going to be very important for the Chargers to get the ball out quickly. And when they do, they should be looking for McConkey. And the Chargers absolutely have to run the football in this game. They have to dominate the line of scrimmage and take some pressure off of Justin Herbert throwing the football. And on defense, Khil Mack has to eat. He's the big guy. He's the one that has to go get Patrick Mahomes, but also you got to be disciplined because there's nobody in the National Football League that plays better out of structure than Patrick Mahomes.
Absolutely. It's a storyline every game against Patrick Mahomes. You want to just let him eat, but at the same time, you still have to keep that pass rush lane integrity. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. David, when coming up with the keys for success in this game, it was a little bit tough because the Chargers injury report has been all over the place this week, and it's been really, really hard to tell who is going to play. But Justin Herbert said there's less pain this week than there was last week. He's practiced more days than he did last week, at least to this point through Thursday in the week, and it looks like he's going to play. And we'll talk about the run game because it's a non-negotiable, but it seems like they're going to have a little bit more, and I think that's where McConkey comes in. I think the reason why it's a key for success that he has a big game in this one is because he's probably going to see a lot of Trent McDuffie, who is the Kansas City Chiefs' best corner, especially if they're lining him up in the slot. And if he's winning that matchup, that's a really good sign for the Chargers offense. I mean, if he is staying in the slot, I'm probably moving Ladd around a little bit and getting him on the outside as well. But I do think, this guy, McConkey, who leads the team in targets, who looked like he was going to really go off last game before Justin Herbert got hurt, I think he needs a big one. He has been kind of this team's, 1A, 1B receiver, and I think they need him in Kansas against the Chiefs this weekend.
I agree. And the beautiful thing about McConkey in his game is he creates separation very, very quickly, which is going to be very important for this particular game because the Chargers offensive line is banged up and it's shuffled around. You got guys that are in the lineup that are not necessarily playing in their right spots, and they're trying to figure it out. So what's the best way to help your quarterback out? Get the ball out of his hands quickly. Get them on those wide receiver screens. I want to see those running back screens. I want to see crossers, drag routes. I want to see you get the ball out of Herbert's hands quickly into the hands of your playmakers like McConkey, like Quentin Johnston, and let them go eat. Let them go get those yards after the catch. Let them go move the ball down the field because that's another extension of the running game, but also a great way to keep Justin Herbert upright.
Yeah, and I think it'll be important for Greg Roman in this game to kind of pick his spots because you can do that, right? You can pepper short passes and you can do screen passes and things like that. But if that's all you can do, it's going to become super obvious, and you have to know, like they did even last week against the Steelers, when to kind of pull the rug out, right? When to not throw the wide receiver screen and have a Quentin Johnston fake block and then head up the sideline for a touchdown, right?
Yeah.
That'll be big for this game. The screens hopefully can help you kind of off balance them a little bit. I mean, they do have very athletic linebackers, right? So that is a plus for them. But I do think that, anything you can do to kind of slow down that pass rush a little bit is great. And I do think that it's only a matter of time before McConkey kind of has that breakout game. And he has, the most first downs of any receiver so far for the Chargers this year. They're going to need him to be good in this game. And it feels like he's, ready for that platform. He's ready for that stage to come through. All right, David, I think the one thing that it's impossible to go this segment without talking about is the running game. And we've started a lot of shows talking about the running game for the Chargers. And Last week, we got to see a little taste of what it looked like when they could not run the ball, which Justin Herbert was able to carry them for a while, but eventually the hits added up because the running game wasn't working, because they kept getting put in so many obvious passing situations that he ended up having to leave the game because of, re-aggravating his ankle. So I think it's a non-negotiable in this game. Turn the offense into a battering ram, shrink the game as much as you can, steal a couple of possessions. I mean, even look at the Giants and Cowboys game from Thursday Night Football. The Giants lost, but they were overmatched and they got it to win with one possession, right? They had that game if they could have capitalized on it, because they shrunk the game so much, because they ran the football so well and had those long drives. So I think the running game, obviously, David, we saw last week it struggled. It has to get back to being a dominant run game if the Chargers are going to have any chance in this one.
Yeah, 20 carries for 61 yards is not going to cut it in this game. The Chargers have to get that production that they got in the first two games to look more like what they're going to do on Sunday. That they absolutely have to run the ball. They got to get more carries for Gus, too. I think 3 carries for 9 yards is not going to cut it in this game. He needs to get a good, strong workload. I feel like you really need to use him to batter the defense, really, wear them out, and then use J.K. Dobbins as that complement to go dash and get those explosive runs. But I really feel like it needs to be a little bit closer on the splits as far as the carries are concerned, because Gus Edwards is an important part of this running game, and he needs to get going. The Chargers need to help scheme him get going, get him some confidence, because then I think you're going to see the best version of Gus Edwards out there.
Yeah, I could see a good game for Gus in this one. I mean, he's very physical. I think even though he's only averaging like 3 yards a carry for the season, it's like sometimes you need those tough yards. And if you can keep yourself getting 2 carries for 3.5 yards and getting it into 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, in a game like this where you're likely missing your 2 starting tackles and your 3rd best tackle is kind of questionable for this game, you need that, and you can take that. And I think it will, potentially get them worn down. And this is also a very, like I said, those are finesse linebackers, athletic linebackers. Neither one of them is great at stopping the run. And the Chiefs, on average, are pretty average as far as stopping the run goes. 12th in yards per carry, 16th in yards allowed so far this season, even though it's only a 3-game sample size. They can be run on. It's not like you had last week where you had a dominant front that nobody has been able to run the ball on this year with the Steelers. But the last thing, Dave, maybe the most important thing, is just guys need to step up on the offensive line. Like, it's as simple as that. I don't think Rashawn Slater's playing in this game. I do not think Joe Alt is playing in this game. I think it's going to be a real mix and match. And last week, I mean, if the Chargers offensive line, let's put it simply, plays as poorly as they did last week to end that game against the Steelers, the Chargers could get shut out in this game. Straight up. Like, it was unacceptable. It was just unusable, like what they were trying to do offensively. Now they get a whole week and kind of knowing what they have, even though Trey Pipkins has been limited. And you're going up against Chris Jones. So to me, like, you have to have guys step up. And even though you're not really loving who's going to be out there as far as knowing what you're going to get and actually being able to have a ton of confidence in it, it's a great opportunity for some of these guys who haven't had the opportunity to show what they can do to step up and perform on the biggest stage and really, really put some good tape out there.
Well, this is where your depth that you spent your offseason accumulating, this is where it's going to shine or it's going to fail. Right? And at least the Chargers had some time to be able to put this together. My last couple real quick. Anytime you get into the red zone, you got to get 6 points. You got to score touchdowns every single time you get to the red zone, because this Chiefs offense can score in a hurry. So when you get those opportunities, and they may be few and far between, you got to get in the end zone. And no fumbles, no interceptions, and limit the penalties. Got to play a clean game.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we were talking about yesterday, too. I mean, that's a non-negotiable. If you're trying to pull off a big upset, you can't hurt yourself and beat yourself. So it's going to be very interesting. I mean, I am legitimately concerned about the Chargers offense in this one. Like we saw last week, you take away the run game, it was pretty pedestrian, and Justin Herbert got hurt. There has to be, like, running the football, getting the offensive line figured out, having quick targets to guys like Ladd McConkey, getting the ball out of Justin Herbert's hands. It just has to be better than it was last week, and they have to be able to keep it up for a full 60 minutes going up against a defensive coordinator and Steve Spagnuolo, who is really, really notorious for being able to do things the Chargers offensive line, even while the starters were healthy, haven't been good at, which is stunts, simulated pressures, things like that, free rushers. They're going to be able to scheme those up unless you can run the ball, unless you can keep yourself in manageable situations, just to give yourself a chance. So I'm excited to see what Greg Roman can do. It's a huge opportunity for him to kind of, earn his keep around here in a certain way, right? Be able to show what you're capable of as an offensive coordinator. Here you go. You get the 2-time Super Bowl champions, right? 2-time reigning Super Bowl champions. Let's see what you got. But they're going to need a big game defensively, and Jesse Minter's defense is probably going to have its best game of the season on Sunday if the Chargers are going to win. And I think it starts with getting a vintage performance from Khil Mack, because you're likely not going to have Joey Bosa. Derwin James is suspended for this game. It's Mack time, and he has to come up in a big way. So we're going to talk about that and much more on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, I need to tell you about Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%, because Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. I also need to tell you guys about Prize Picks, because Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members, and Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy. All you have to do, pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. This is the last weekend, guys. You can get Caleb Williams 1 passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks. You only have to get 2 wins. You're halfway there if Caleb Williams can throw for 1 passing yards, and you can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. And this weekend, you can go with Ladd McConkey or Quentin Johnston getting into the end zone. I feel like both of those guys have a good chance. Or you can go with more than or less than J.K. Dobbins' 55.5 rushing yards. I think those are all attainable. All you have to do, download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's LOCKEDONNFL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't ever need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Dave, let's get into the defensive side of things here, and it's probably unfair to ask what we're going to ask of Jesse Minter in this one for the Chargers to be able to pull off a big upset, which we're going to get into what the odds of that are. But I think it starts with kind of like the running game has to be good for the Chargers to have a chance. It's hard for me to imagine the Chargers have a chance in this game if they don't get a big game from Khil Mack. And he has a good matchup in this one. The Chiefs have been kind of wishy-washy about who they want to be their left tackle. The rookie left tackle they had at the beginning of the year has already gotten benched. The left tackle going into this game, according to Andy Reid, is going to be Wanya Morris, who gave up 2 pressures last week. But last year, he was really, really poor, especially towards the end of the season. He allowed multiple pressures in the last 5 games to end last season, and also in that 5-game span, allowed 22 pressures, which is 4.4 per game, including a 10-pressure game allowed that he had last year against the Raiders. Yeah, it's so... That is a weak spot. That is usually where he lines up against your left tackle. It feels like Khil Mack has to have a big one. We're talking 2-time defensive player of the year at 2 positions, Khil Mack.
And Khil Mack has shown that he has the ability to play at that level. I mean, we've already seen it so far this year, him doing his signature fork lifting of the tackle and just pushing him into the quarterback and getting a sack. That's what I want to see in this
6-sack game last year. Let's not forget too, right? Aiden O'Connell definitely hasn't forgotten. I'll tell you that.
I promise you, he probably sees Khil Mack in his nightmares. Like, oh God, no, not again.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's what Patrick Mahomes is seeing after this football game is nightmares of Khil Mack just pile driving him into the ground as softly as he possibly can to avoid an unnecessary roughness penalty or a roughing the passer penalty. But anytime you get a chance to square up and hit him, you got to, because he is so good at avoiding sacks, avoiding pressure, extending plays, really playing out of structure, which that's what it is for me. That's my key, is you have to account for him and him extending plays out of structure. He's so good at keeping his eyes downfield, throwing the ball down the field, and extending those plays. The Chargers have to cover from whistle to whistle, from beginning to end of the play, because it does not fail. Every single game, he is able to extend a play and really get the Chiefs in a really good situation going forward. So you have to keep that in mind whenever you play against him.
Yeah, it's always a key. And I think it just goes to the point that really the Chargers on both sides have this week, which is just stay disciplined, right? The Chiefs have been a dink and dunk team Where they win is with misdirection, right? Expect the unexpected, reverses, shovel passes, crazy screen passes. They have all that stuff, and that's how they end up getting those explosives, right? Pass rush lanes have to be great, which is hard. You want Khil Mack to go eat. Same time, you don't want to open up a gigantic hole for Patrick Mahomes to run to, especially late. He loves to use his legs to extend drives, and it's come up big for them so many times. He's slippery, that one. But let's get to another one. I mean, I think when you're talking about this Chiefs offense in general, like I think when you're looking at who do you stop, right? Usually that's Travis Kelce. Right now it's Rashee Rice, right?
Yeah.
Like that's just been the guy. 24 catches, 288 yards, 2 touchdowns already this season. He's almost averaging 100 yards per game. But I think it's a fine line the Chargers have to find here because they haven't really let any receiver go off on them so far this year. You have one big Calvin Austin catch and run when the Chargers defense was beat last week, but like George Pickens didn't do much. Devontae Adams didn't have a crazy game when they played against him. Carolina doesn't really have a guy you'd expect anything like that from. Maybe Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson didn't do anything. But so I think here it's like all the attention, especially on these big downs, has to be Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice, right? Like that's just what it is. Because you want to put extra attention on Rashee Rice, but like you also don't want to be the team that lets Travis Kelce get going because so far this year he's really struggled, and you're not going to have Derwin James to throw on him.
That's exactly what one of my keys is do not let Travis Kelce get going. Obviously, Travis Kelce has, had a Hall of Fame career, and he's also made a lot of those plays against the Chargers in a lot of big moments. So far this year, only 8 catches for 69 yards and 0 touchdowns. He has not been able to get things going yet. He has not been that, all-star, all-pro difference maker at the tight end position up to this point.
Yeah, he's averaging less than 30 yards a game, which is insane.
Yeah, which is crazy. And Rashee Rice is definitely the guy, and the Chiefs are trying to do everything they can to use misdirection, to use the motion, to be able to use some of those natural rub and pick routes that they have built into their offense to get him freed up and get him the ball in space because he is a pretty good yards after catch receiver.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure and you account for him at all times. And I wouldn't be surprised if this was a game where you see a lot of Christian Fulton on Rashee Rice, and hopefully he's able to try to take him out of the ball game and make somebody else try to beat them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Make Justin Watson beat you, right? Make Noah Gray beat you. Like, obviously, like Xavier Worthy has the speed. I mean, he has 81 receiving yards this year, and a lot of that came in that first game where he had the long touchdown where nobody was covering him, right? Obviously, he has the speed, and we saw last week with Calvin Austin. If you miss a tackle on a dude like that, he's gone. You have to be aware of it, and you have to be aware of just, staying disciplined and all those things if he gets a reverse or something like that. The last thing I have here is kind of a defense and special teams key, which is just this. Help the offense out, right? It feels like the Chargers need to steal a possession or two, steal a score or two in this game if they're realistically going to pull off the upset, right? Like the ideal situation, obviously, you get a pick six, you get a scoop and score touchdown on a fumble, but it could also be a turnover on downs, right? In a big moment where you get off the field on 4th down, like, or even just getting a takeaway, but setting your offense up where they're already in a prime position to get points, right? Get them inside the 35 or in Dicker's range. Let them start a drive there so you're getting points out of it. And also, it's very hard to expect a lot of offense for me this week. Like I said, I'm worried about it. And I think it also, with Patrick Mahomes throwing 4 interceptions in 3 games so far this year, it's not that out of the question.
And it should have been more, to be honest, when you watch the games. Should have been a lot more than that.
He's the king of having, drop picks or picks that end up, being penalties that don't count against him. It's all in there. But I think it works for special teams too, right? A big kick return could be huge in this one. And it could be Jalen Reagor that's returning kicks, right? He signed to the practice squad. Seems like he'd be a special teams guy. Darius Davis all of a sudden is not practicing at all on Thursday and limited on Wednesday. So seems like his status is in doubt. But Jalen Reagor did take a touchdown back last year. He had a kickoff return, took that back for a touchdown. Butker does kick touchbacks about 75% of the time. But the main thing here, David, is just like find a way, any way you can to steal a possession, to steal a score, help your offense out a little bit.
I agree. You got to play complementary football against the better teams in the National Football League. The Chiefs are the reigning 2-time Super Bowl champions. Anytime you can get a short field, an extra possession, then you got to do that, especially in these games when you're underhanded, shorthanded. Go help your offense out however way you can.
Yeah, and we've talked about it all week, right? It's such a big test for Jesse Minter in this defense. I wish he had Derwin James. I wish he had Joey Bosa.
Yeah.
But like we talked about, even yesterday, it's like, hey, those depth pieces you have to give yourself a deep edge room, they have to show up. Jesse Minter, this is the game where you need to have a plan to at least keep it, a close game. Give the Chargers a chance. And I think if you can give the Chargers a chance, if you can hold them to 20 to 24 points, something like that, I think that's a huge win for Jesse Minter. But we do have more to get into, including a bunch of bold predictions. And I think there are a couple that could come true again this week, including a Thiers maybe. Maybe he's right about the Chargers this week. We have much more to get into on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First of all, I need to tell you guys about FanDuel because, FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. And right now you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And the line has moved again from this one. It started at 8.5 as the Chargers being underdogs in this game. Then it was 7.5 for the crossover show yesterday. And today it's 7, which means it feels like every day that Justin Herbert practices, they're shaving a half a point off. And, 8.5 with Justin Herbert, I would have been all over. But you can also get the over-under for this game, which is currently 39.5 points. But I always love the anytime touchdown scorers. The ones I like in this game, you can get Ladd McConkey or Gus Edwards, both at plus 300 plus in this game for an anytime touchdown. All you have to do, go get started with FanDuel, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet on FanDuel. That's FanDuel.com. David, it's time to get into our bold predictions, and I've loved incorporating the fans, the everydayers into this, and we've already had basically 2 of them out of the 3 weeks we've done this that have come true, so now we're kind of hoping we can even reverse jinx the Chargers into some crazy stats in this game. But I want to thank everyone again for making us your first listen. If you need a second listen, make sure to now check out the new Locked On NFL lineup where they're putting out 2 shows a day. You can start it with Tyler the Madman Rowland in the morning. You won't need any coffee to wake up with him, or you can chill out a little bit in the barbershop with my man, Tony Wiggins, and they're always bringing on the local experts who cover their teams every single day. So check them out on podcasts or on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast from. So, David, let's get to the first one we have here from Herb is for real on the bold predictions this week, and he says Quentin Johnston hits his first 100-yard game. In week 2, we had one that was Quentin Johnston gets his first multiple touchdown game. We both kind of sold it in a way. We're like, yeah, maybe it could happen. Hopefully we can do it again. It would be awesome for Quentin Johnston to have his first 100-yard game in this one. He's already on pace to shatter everything he did last year. 3 touchdowns in 3 weeks. Only had 2 touchdowns all year. He's like already a third of the way to the yardage total that he had last year through 3 games. And I'd love to see Ladd McConkey have a big game, David. But at the same time, Trent McDuffie will probably get a lot of Ladd McConkey, which means Quentin Johnston's going to have the better matchups in this one, and we know if he can break a tackle, he does great things after the catch. He's had a couple of big plays 2 weeks in a row. I'd love to see it, and I could definitely buy a 100-yard game from QJ.
Yeah, hopefully the offensive coaching staff continues to put Quentin Johnston in the best situations to utilize his skill set to have success, because we've seen when they do that, good things happen. Yeah. He turns a 5-yard catch into a 15-yard catch. He's able to catch the football now. He is a dangerous weapon in the open field. So if you're able to manufacture those type of touches, get a couple of blockers out in front, Quentin Johnston absolutely has the ability to get those big gains and rip off a 100-yard game.
Yeah, and it feels like if he gets a 100-yard game right, there's probably like a 50, 60-yard touchdown that's sprinkled in there, right? He's getting all of it in a big chunk. But let's get to the next one, which is as bold as can be here from Guidebook Beats, who says, Tony Jefferson, 2 interceptions, 10 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. Well, I'm mostly using this one so we can talk about our boy Tony Jefferson, friend of the show, who is now signed to the active roster. You love to see it.
Congratulations,
right? And
Tony.
The last time we saw this dude, he was going absolutely ballistic in the last game of the preseason. He knew his job was on the line.
He's going God
you
mode.
Couldn't have, he had a stat line that was basically like this. Also forced a fumble in that game. So a little bit different to do it against the Kansas City Chiefs. But I do think he'll probably be safety 3. I wouldn't be surprised to see him all as the 3rd safety behind Elijah Molden and Alohi Gilman. That'll be starting. I think AJ Finley will be mostly special teams. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Tony Jefferson's getting snaps on the defense, right? Derwin James is suspended. I don't think it'll be that big, David, but I'd love to see Tony Jefferson have a big game.
Yeah, well, I just think that, on this roster, to me, Tony Jefferson feels like the guy that can step into Derwin James's role the most effectively, because I feel like he's played that style of defense where he's been up close to the line of scrimmage, where he's been able to play back, where he's kind of moved around a little bit. And, he's already showcased that he's very comfortable in this defense, and he still has the awareness and the ability to put himself in those positions to create turnovers. So hopefully he does. Hopefully he's able to go out there and make some game-changing plays, because the Chargers desperately need it in this one.
Yeah, and I mean, his roster spot's not, just guaranteed for the rest of the season either, right? Like, he has a chance to go show something. He could get moved back to the practice squad again. This is his chance, and as we've seen before, if he has one chance to kind of show what he can do, there's a good chance he can go out there and do it. So I don't know how many snaps he'll get, but I do think he'll be impactful in the snaps he does get. But we do have a Thier who called in with his bold prediction this week, and I know a lot of fans are going to really, really hope this one can happen.
Dan, David, this is a Thier. My bold prediction: Herbert will play, Charger defense will shine, Vicker, game-winning field goal as the time expires, Chargers win 23-20. Happy birthday, David. Let's go, baby.
Athir, love you. David's birthday is next week. He, I'm sure, would trade every birthday present he has, to see a Chargers huge upset going into the bye week at 3-1. It does feel like it would have to be kind of that score of a game, right? The Chiefs you'd have to hold them to around 20 points, and then you find a way to squeak out 23. At that point, I get it. If you were to tell me right now I could sign up for a 62-yard field goal attempt from Cameron Dicker to win this game right now, I would take it. So, I mean, hey, I'll take Cameron Dicker against anybody, even Harrison Butker, right? It's going to be really hard. We're going to get into our game predictions. But, David, I mean, that'd be a hell of a birthday present for sure.
It sure would be. I would not want to celebrate my birthday in any other way than enjoying a Victory Monday on my birthday after beating the two-time Super Bowl champions and the defending Super Bowl champions. That is everything that I would want. But you know what my favorite part of that entire bold prediction was?
The part where he said happy birthday.
As time expires. Yeah. That is what I want, because you can't give the Chiefs any time. None at all. It has to be as the clock expires, hits 000, and you walk off in a victory.
Yeah, it feels like it kind of has to be. I mean, they scored in 13 seconds in the playoffs against the Bills,
That's
right?
exactly what I'm saying.
They've done crazier things to the Chargers in 30 seconds or less too, but like it feels like it either has to be kind of an as time expires type of field goal, or you running the ball and running the clock out on them with him on the sideline, or picking off Patrick Mahomes in a game clinching type of situation. Either way, you're finishing with the ball. But let's get to our own bold predictions here, David. I'm going to go first on this one. Gus Edwards, a guy we talked about earlier in the show. I for whatever reason, I know he hasn't been great so far this year, especially efficiency-wise. It feels like one of those games is coming from him. I mean, it's just he hasn't looked anything like the dude we saw last season. We know he still has some gas there. I have Gus Edwards, 15 carries for 90 yards and a touchdown in this one. Obviously, by far would be his best game as a Charger.
Yep, so I actually had Gus Edwards as my bold prediction as well.
2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
I think last week, we both went with Derwin James, and he had a hell of a game. I mean, we were almost right on the bold prediction for Derwin James last week.
Yeah. Gus Edwards, I think he comes back and he shows himself in this game. The Thunder and Lightning has been missing a little bit of thunder in the backfield, and I think this is the game where the Thunder announces his presence. And I'm going with 75 yards and 2 touchdowns, and both of those touchdowns being in the red zone. I think this is where Gus Edwards has his coming out party.
It does feel like with Gus Edwards, I mean, if he is going to score, it's probably going to have to be not only in the red zone, but probably inside the gold zone, inside the 10-yard line, which is what we thought it was. The Chargers haven't gotten there very many times, right? A couple of longer touchdowns outside the red zone from Quentin Johnston so far this year. We have a Lad McConkey red zone touchdown so far this year. But yeah, I mean, I don't think either of the linebackers for the Chiefs are great run defense linebackers. I think the physical style will play well against Kansas City. And I think, if you can really batter them, it'll give you a great chance for these long, time-consuming drives you really want to shrink this game, because I think it does have to be a lower scoring game for the Chargers to pull it off. So, David, let's put our money where our mouths are. It's time for the game predictions. We know, looks like Justin Herbert's going to start. Gives them a chance. Anytime he's in the game, you have a chance to win the game. What do you think the final score is of this one?
Yeah, so with this game, the Chargers are way less than 100%, missing both their tackles, missing their best edge rusher, missing their best kick returner, punt returner, probably in Darius Davis. Just a lot of things have to go absolutely perfectly for the Chargers to win this football game. And so for the first time in 2024, I am picking the Chargers to lose, unfortunately. I think they're going to fight valiantly, but ultimately I have them dropping this one 24-17.
Yeah, I could see that. It's hard to pick them in this one because this is the big thing. And the reason I'm not going to pick the Chargers to win this week. I don't even know for sure if Justin Herbert's going to be the quarterback, period. And if he is the quarterback, I don't know if he's going to play the whole game, right? Like if you get a half game from Justin Herbert in this one, you're not going to win. Right. To me, at least, that's the way I'm thinking about it when I'm thinking about how this game is going to play out. I don't fully trust the offense without the two best parts of their offensive line. I don't know if Herbert's going to finish the game, and you're missing two of your best players defensively. That's hard to overcome against any team. It's harder to overcome against a guy who's won the Super Bowl 3 times and back-to-back times, right? So to me, I have the Chargers losing this one 23-13. I think they have to settle for a couple field goals. I'm not super positive they're going to have, 4 or 5 scoring drives. I hope I'm wrong. If I knew Justin Herbert was going to play the entire game, I think the score would be a little bit different. But right now, it's a huge prove it game, which is only going to make it that much sweeter if they can find a way to pull it off. Like, this would be a gigantic upset in my mind with what the Chargers are going through. The first time going in with Jim Harbaugh, if they're able to knock off the Chiefs here and go to 3-1, it's going to change entirely how I feel about this team, right? So, I'm not picking them to win. It's a huge prove it game. I think they can keep it close enough. Maybe it gets to a 2-score game at the end. I think it's going to be close. I just don't have the belief that the Chargers have the firepower to get it done against the Chiefs. So hopefully I'm wrong. Either way, we'll be back here on Sunday night doing a live show. We weren't able to do it last week. We'll be back doing a live show for you guys on Sunday as the Chargers head into the bye week. Worst case scenario, you're 2-2 and can get a lot healthier. But best case scenario, we're celebrating and popping some champagne on Sunday night. So make sure you guys are with us by subscribing or following for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listening wherever you get your podcast from. You can also find the show every day on our social media. You can hit us up like everyone did today for the bold predictions at Locked On LAC or call into the voicemail line at 323-524-7924. You can also find the show on our Instagram at Locked On Chargers and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. You can also find the show every day on me and David's personal Twitter accounts, Dan Talk Sports for me and Dro Talk SD for David. But hey, prove us wrong. A gigantic chance to pull off a gigantic upset, and I hope we're here talking about the Chargers coming through as big underdogs on Sunday night on the live show. But until then, guys, take it easy and go Bolts.